So we changed the name of the company to its current name, Seagreen Lawn Care and Irrigation. And as the name implies, we focus on lawn care, which would be fertilization, weed control applications, and then irrigation, and specifically irrigation service and maintenance. We don't do a lot of new installations, and I chose that niche for a couple reasons. I really like the irrigation part. I like the problem solving part. We were pretty good at it. And lawn care developed kind of a niche for that and a liking for that.
You work hard in your business. On the Profit by Design podcast, we ask the big question. What has your business done for you lately? Hi, I'm Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the business psychologist, the author of the 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series, as well as the founder of Tap the Potential, where we coach entrepreneurs like you to design sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. Because after all, we believe work supports life, not the other way around. Weekly on the Profit by Design podcast, we bring you tips, tools, and strategies from our own experiences and from the experiences of our guests who are entrepreneurial thought leaders and real life entrepreneurs, all to support you in making intentionally profitable and sustainable business decisions to live the lifestyle you desire. Profit Designers, the 4-Week Vacation, the entrepreneur's ultimate guide to taking your life back from your business, is now available. Go to 4weekvacation.com, grab a copy of the book, and be sure to follow the steps there to claim your bonuses. When you purchase the book, you are eligible to join me for my upcoming live training, the 4-Week Vacation Better Business, Better Life Jumpstart. Plus, and you'll also get an invitation to an exclusive VIP closed door training with me to identify the true profit potential within your business. Just follow the steps at 4weekvacation.com. And I hope that the 4-Week Vacation book inspires you for what's possible. It's time to take your life back from your business. Welcome to the Profit by Design podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Starling. I'm the author of the 4-Week Vacation and the How to Hire the Best series, as well as the founder of Tap the Potential, where we are on a mission to support entrepreneurs in taking your lives back from your business. And today I am so honored that we have one of our How to Hire the Best course alumni with us. And we have featured Erich in our Great Place to Work Spotlight. So we're going to be diving in with Erich Kolb today of Seagreen Lawn Care and Irrigation in Myrtle Beach. It's wonderful to have you with us, Erich.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So you have an incredible story. And I want to start with the journey that you've been on as an entrepreneur. And one of the things that I want to share as we dive into your story, you have listened to every single episode of the Profit by Design podcast.
Yes, and many of them multiple times. I usually listen to those early morning when I'm doing paperwork and things that hopefully eventually I won't be doing at that hour of the day. But yes, I was turned on to the podcast by a friend and a business mentor, Steve Bousquet. He introduced me to your teaching and your podcast, and I've listened to all of them. Donna Lyons, Mike Michalowicz, all those really resonate and are motivating. I also can really relate to, the stories I heard from Steve Bousquet and Don Zerbe, Blake Moore. They're kind of in the same space that I am as far as service that we provide. And I really trust and value their business acumen. And I like hearing, some of the other podcasts. You had Tom Reber, who talked about head trash and how that can get in the way. That really resonated. And Rob Minnick, Chuck Parmalee, and also Jeff McManus' story. And because he's in, landscaping, and that's a field that I was in. So, and talked about culture. And so, yes, they're good to listen to. And I go back multiple times.
Yeah. And, you are the epitome of why we created the Profit by Design podcast with respect to, we wanted to highlight the stories of real life entrepreneurs and the value that you've gotten from others who've come on the podcast and shared their stories and shared their experiences really speaks to what we're trying to deliver here on the Profit by Design podcast. So I'm honored that you're here with us today to share your story, and your story is incredible. So just a couple of highlights, then I'm going to let you dive in and tell your story.
Okay.
Eric started his business with $40. He grew it to over $700,000 in revenue and realized it wasn't working. So he made some big changes, and you have really, you pumpkin planned your business before you knew what pumpkin planning was. And you are really committed to having a business that supports your life. So take us back to the very beginning of when you started your business.
Okay. Wow. Well, it's been a while. So as a child, and growing up, I was, I guess, entrepreneurial, and before I knew what that meant. But, I always would mow lawns for neighbors, had a little car detailing business, all these things through middle school, junior high, high school, began working with a landscaper. I wanted a car. I wanted a Jeep, and my father said, well, go get a job. And that's kind of how I got into this profession. But then graduated from college with a business degree, which is kind of ironic. It was business management. And then I learned very quickly that, companies didn't want to hand over the keys to a 22-year-old and say, well, go manage my business. And so I kind of reverted back to landscaping and worked for some companies and really wanted to start my own. I did not come from an entrepreneurial or business background. My family, they were teachers. My dad was a professor. So, if I wanted a mathematics job anywhere in the state, he probably could have helped me out. But as far as the business, I was on my own. So I started with one of my longtime friends. And yes, we literally started with $40. I had some lawns that I was mowing. He had some lawns that he was mowing. We were going to get a commercial account. We needed to get set up. So we walked into the local bank to set up our bank account. And the lady asked us how much we wanted to put in. And we both looked at each other, and I was like, I have $20. And he said, so do I. That's where we started.
Wow.
So we continued. We were mostly doing lawn maintenance, which is including, the mowing services, pruning, mulching, that kind of thing. We expanded into installation and irrigation. And we really, we grew because, our hearts were in it. We gave people, their money's worth. We were really focused on the quality of the service we were providing, but on the business side, we really didn't know. And even though I had taken an accounting class and different classes in school, it just didn't relate to what the small business world was and the challenges that I faced.
I want to comment on that because there are so many small business owners out there who feel some shame around not having any business background. And that's the majority of small business owners, actually, who have no business background. You're really good at the thing that you do, but no business background. You had business background. You took it in college. You majored in it, business management, and yet you found it has no relation to real world small business.
It really didn't resonate at the time specifically. And looking back, if I could have done an internship or something in a small business while I was in college, that might have helped. But we studied just-in-time management. We studied Maslow's hierarchy of needs and all these things that, went on the back shelf for the next 15 to 20 years as I was just really struggling to, build a business, find help, get the job done, make payroll. So, yeah, it was a challenge. I certainly didn't know what I didn't know.
What was the turning point when you recognized that business was not working and change was needed? What was going on and what led you to that?
The first thing was, so I had a business partner who was a good friend of mine and still is a good friend of mine today. So, and that's an accomplishment in itself, given the business hurdles. But we reached a point where we were busy, we were working, we were, paying equipment off, and we were, writing payroll checks, but we really weren't getting anywhere. And we realized, we're getting old enough that, this just wasn't a little job that we're working for beer money, kind of thing, that we needed to support our families and we needed to grow. And so that was the first turning point where we realized, we're not doing something right here. We don't know what it is. And so we really began to look at the numbers and tracking things that we had just didn't know and we didn't do. So, then we start finding out, what work are we doing that's just busy work and not providing the company income? What work are we doing that we have no business doing because, we're not skilled at it? So that was the first step. I ended up buying my business partner out. And then I ended up getting some consulting help to further look at the numbers and figure that out. So that was step one. And then that continued up until it helped us get through the recession that, for the landscape and lawn care industry, it was 2010, 2011, where things really were lean. And my business was doing a lot of new construction installation. And so we took a big hit there. And I realized that we just did not have a good identity. We were still spread out doing too many things. So we had to really focus, pull back and focus on what we wanted to be. Fast forward to, a few years later, as the business was growing, it's still, for my wife and myself, it wasn't where we wanted to be personally. I was in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. It's a great area, born and raised there. I love the area, but my heart was at the coast. And as my business was growing and we were expanding, I was getting further and further away from the coast, meaning that instead of leaving Friday afternoon to go to the beach and come back, I was having to work on Saturday, having to work on Sunday. So that kind of precipitated that kind of the big jump.
Well, and you also said when you added up the hours that you were working and how much you were making, you were still around minimum wage.
Yes. I mean, it was just putting in a lot of hours to kind of cover all these different areas that we were doing. And I think our business still somewhat had an identity crisis. We were doing some large landscape maintenance for commercial, but we were also doing residential. We did some lawn care. And, back years ago, a lot of companies did that. And I'm talking in the 90s and so forth, but I don't know that that was necessarily smart. And I felt that we needed to narrow our focus. So, that kind of also was part of what I wanted to do when we kind of moved and changed directions.
So you closed that business?
Yes, I sold the business. So in the journey, it was probably a 4 to 5 year plan. I mean, from the time that I just kind of had this dream of I want to be at the beach, which had always been in the back of my mind, until we actually made it happen. It was not a 1 season or 1 year thing. The first part was kind of planning of how do I get my current business, books and everything in order that it could be a sellable asset if that was possible. The second thing was to figure out the transition of where we were going to be specifically on the coast. We ended up had a condo and we went there part-time. So a lot of times when I would go down on the weekends, I would start to foster and develop some relationships so that I wouldn't be completely at ground zero when I got here. And then it took over 2 years for me to sell my business. So we actually moved to the coast, and then I kind of went back and forth for 2 years. And that involved every Sunday morning getting up at 3:45 and driving back so that I could be there to get the cruise off at 7:00 in the morning. So you have to be dedicated to your dream.
Well, you definitely have dedication, that's for sure. So when you made the move and you finally got your business sold and you started with 0 customers.
Yes.
And you also narrowed your focus.
Yes. So we changed the name of the company to its current name, Seagreen Lawn Care and Irrigation. And as the name implies, we focus on lawn care, which would be fertilization, weed control applications, and then irrigation, and specifically irrigation service and maintenance. We don't do a lot of new installations, and I chose that niche for a couple reasons. I really like the irrigation part. I like the problem solving part. We were pretty good at it. And lawn care developed kind of a niche for that and a liking for that. Also, those are 2 of the more profitable segments in our industry. And my thought was I wanted to attract better people. I wanted to build a better team. And you can't attract and keep a better team if you can't pay them well. So I wanted to be able to kind of work in that space of higher margin jobs so that we could, reward, our team better.
So what you just said is so wise and so relevant to today's business environment. I want to underscore it because there are many business owners in service industries who are struggling to hire and keep team members. And if you are spread and doing all kinds of services and you haven't tuned into what are your most profitable offerings, where do you have the opportunity to create margin so that you can pay higher wages and attract better team members, you're going to stay stuck in a cycle of continually chasing after hiring new people and feeling like you have to be pulled in the field yourself because you can't attract the help that you need. So what Erich is describing is pumpkin planting, and you did it before you even knew what pumpkin planting was or it had been invented. And part of this is tuning into what do you do really well, because I heard you say irrigation, you like the problem solving, and the lawn care and the applications. That was another thing that you guys did really well. And you saw that it was profitable and you specifically went in that direction because you wanted to be able to build a great team.
Yes. Another aspect of that, I saw the painful challenges that we had in training and executing jobs when we did a little bit of everything. Maybe, the way I was wired, I like the challenge of, well, let's go build a patio today and let's put sod tomorrow and let's build a waterfall on Thursday. But that was really difficult for new team members, especially. If you could imagine, you come to work on Monday and let's go do sod, and then we're going to dust off the tape measure and go build a patio. And it wasn't very efficient, because in your trucks and your equipment, you're loading, you're unloading, you're changing. And so I wanted to kind of eliminate some of that. And even to this day, I still look, do we need to narrow even more?
Yes. Ongoing narrowing. And when you jump around from one thing to the next, because it's interesting, it keeps things lively, but it takes your life away from you because you're constantly having to learn new things. Problems come up that you don't have a solution for, and you have to go and figure out the problem because it's not what you do every single day. So when you narrow, you get the opportunity to be really good at something and to train your team to be really good at something. And you free up a lot of time for yourself.
Yes, and we're working that direction, and it is certainly better than it was at times. Of course, I did start out again at ground zero. So when I left my other company, I was probably 75% sales and admin and 25% field, and I came down here, and I'm 100% field and doing the other part in the other 50%, so equals 150%. But we've since then I built up and I got a part-time person and then a full-time person and then an office admin person. But I will say, it's ongoing, it's constant. When I made this big decision, my biggest fear was getting customers. And as it turns out, it has been hiring and retaining team members to service the customers. And so that really led me, through Steve and other people's suggestion, that's where I got involved with your books, reading both the How to Hire the Best books and then the class, which really equipped me because we just didn't have anything. And that's something I just didn't know. I have not personally filled out a job application since 1995.
Yeah. So we business owners, we kind of make up the hiring based on what we know. And I'm like you, before I started studying hiring in small business, it was the, early 2000s when I had my last job and filled out an application. So, and that's what we go by, is how it's always been done.
Yes. And I made what now seem like the classic mistakes. We'd get too many resumes piled up on my corner of my desk. I wouldn't return the calls. I'd look at them and they weren't qualified, or, they worked at inside jobs, and I'm trying to figure out why they are applying to this job. And then I would leave that pile on the corner of my desk and run out and do work and complain that I didn't have any help. And, I just didn't know what I was doing. I needed to focus on it. We've focused on how to plant trees and how to grow grass and how to build irrigation and how to sell, but we just didn't have that team member part. And so that's, what I'm working on is a lot better, and continue to kind of work on it as we go.
What you're describing is so common. Our research shows that 9 out of 10 small business owners have no system for attracting A players. And that's what the How to Hire the Best course and the book series is designed to do, is to help you develop your own hiring system. So let's talk a little bit about what's different for you now. What are you doing differently? And maybe let's go back to what was eye-opening for you when you first read the book and came into the course. What were some of the ahas?
One of the big ahas was that the first part of the book and some of the exercises are really focusing on yourself and your company and what, you stand for. What are your immutable laws, as you talk about, and how that really reflects who you're looking for. And so it's not really just the skill, this person has installed irrigation for 20 years, or this person is, an excellent garage door hanger or carpenter. Does that person kind of have the personality and the mindset that's going to work at my company? So, and that was hard. I mean, to look at all that and figure out, what really makes me different, that was the first thing for sure.
And so when you started owning your immutable laws, what started shifting?
The idea that not everybody that fertilizes lawns or installs or repairs irrigation does it my way. And that's not wrong. But, we have certain ways and certain things that, that are unique to our company. And there are people out there that share those same characteristics. And if you find those, and you can work together, it's a lot easier. You're rowing the boat in the same direction.
Yes. Yeah. And in my experience, it's about having a business you feel proud of. You feel good about how your team members handle things because their values align with yours. So a problem may come up and they may handle it slightly different than you would have handled it, but their overall approach to it feels good to you because it's in alignment with your values.
Yes. And that led to the job descriptions. And that was so different. I really didn't know how to go about job descriptions. And you saw everything from the one-liners to the very corporate ones that, talk about, you must be able to lift and bend and do this and that. And they're so dry after you've read them, 3/4 of the page down. So developing our unique job description, I've gotten positive feedback, and the people that work here, that's the first thing they say that attracted them to my company versus the other 2 or 3. Now, it hasn't been perfect and it hasn't always worked out. And I remember the first time I did it and we were doing the course, and I was disappointed in the amount of replies that I had. But I think you and other people said, stick with it, and I was about to bend, because I was like, we're desperate, I need somebody, but I held true, and we got some good people. Now we again had some issues and we're doing it over. But I think that's the part, is at least I have a system. So I realize I'm going to have to go back and reinstitute it and reuse it. But I'm disappointed when we have to rehire and go through the process. But we have a system we can go back to. And before, it was just willy-nilly all over the place.
Yeah. So let me just give a little context to the hiring challenges. So when we follow traditional hiring practices, those set us up to mishire 75% of the time. So 3 out of 4 hires will be poor hires and we'll end up having to rehire. And the goal of the How to Hire the Best system is to hone and refine. So like Erich says, every time you go back through, you're improving it. You're looking for, what did I learn from this experience with this person who didn't work out, so that I can improve the system on the front end and have a filter and make things better. And so the idea is to increase your chances of hiring right, to go from, a 75% chance of hiring wrong to a 50% chance of hiring right. And then, a 50% and then 75% of your hires being good hires, and building your lean and mighty team that way. And what Erich is describing with your job ad is it's a different job ad. And it was filtering people for you. So people who were the wrong fit were seeing it and they weren't responding. As the business owner, when that's happening, it feels like I'm not getting any responses to this ad. This is bad. I need to change it, especially when you're in a place where it feels like I really need help. But what it's doing, that job ad is doing a job for you because it's protecting you from spending all your time interviewing somebody who's not going to be a good fit, or even worse, hiring somebody that you're going to have to let go in a month or two.
Yes, or even worse, like previous, I would just leave the stack of resumes on the corner of the desk and not get back to them. And so then you don't have any help and you're ghosting your applicants, and it's not a good recipe either.
Yeah. And, one of the reasons that we're featuring you in the Great Place to Work Spotlight is because you had that awareness that it's not about just getting people in and hiring them. It's around, I need to make this a place that people want to work and attract the right people. So what are some of the things, Erich, that you're doing to make it a place that people want to be?
Well, so going back to kind of what our immutable laws are, we focus on, honesty, being dependable, lifelong learner. So what that translates into is if you are interested in coming to Seagreen and you don't know the specifics, the technical parts of the job, but you have the other attributes, we're going to teach you. And I lay it out pretty specifically, what the training will be. We do 80 hours of training before you set foot on a customer's property. And then we also, have up to 2 days or 16 hours, I say yearly, of where, we'll go off site. And of course, COVID threw a wrinkle in that, but, we'll go to whether it's a university or a distributor sponsored learning event. There's certain certifications and licenses in our industry that you can go and achieve. And, I have it laid out that we'll provide the books, the materials, pay for you to go take the test. And when you pass the test, there's a pay incentive there. So those are some of the things that, we do. And just talking about respect, I really relate to the people and that works for me, to them, to the customers, and that they know that if we have a customer that, is a bad apple, that, I'm going to protect them. We're going to certainly make sure that, it's warranted. But if we have to get rid of a customer because they're not treating our team members right, then I'm going to do that.
That's significant. So you just said a whole lot of really important things here. So the number one thing that A players appreciate in the places where they work is being respected and being treated with respect. And many businesses will take care of the customer and the team members get thrown under the bus, or, a customer yells at them and the business owner allows that to go on. And you're saying, no, not at Seagreen. We don't do that. We take care of our team here, and we will not allow our team to be disrespected by our customers, so much so that we're even willing to let go of a customer. And that's very important with respect to retaining A players. The other piece that you said is that you have a thorough onboarding system and training system laid out so that a new team member coming in is coming into a very organized, structured experience with a plan, and they know what's expected of them. They know what success looks like, which is very different from most businesses, large or small, where onboarding is pretty haphazard, it's chaotic, and team members don't know what's expected of them. And then the third component that you said is the learning piece. A players love to learn and they want to get better and improve themselves. They're intrinsically motivated. They're not necessarily motivated by a bonus as much as they are the opportunity to advance and improve themselves and financial compensation that comes along with that. So you are doing multiple things that on the surface, they may sound like, not such a big deal, but they really add up to have a big impact to create a great place to work.
Well, we're getting there, and it is constant learning and adapting. The onboarding piece is something that I'm working on continually. And I guess the last part of the recruiting piece, like the working interview, which is something that y'all discuss, we've done that a few times. And, honestly, that's probably been some of, the best $300 or $400 that I gave away, because I had a couple people that came in and I thought that they might work, and we went out, worked well. And we did a working interview for a couple of days and just found out that, we weren't right for them. They weren't right for us. And, and that was just, I was so thankful just to write that check and separate ways, versus if I had hired them, they would have been here 2 to 3 weeks or months. And, I would have been disappointed, and my wife would have been tired of hearing me complain about them, and it just wouldn't have worked out.
Yeah, there's a lot of spillover effect. So as we were coming into the interview, you shared with me that you have some questions with respect to where you are right now in building your team. So I want to give you the opportunity to ask those questions.
Well, yeah. So a couple things, communication is a big thing. And then I hired my first remote or virtual team member, serves as an office manager. And that brought up a lot of questions with technology. And also, I think specifically how to keep that person engaged and in part of the team and culture, because, we can do a Zoom meeting or something, but that person is not there in the morning, every day with the rest of us. So communication, one thing for us is I am Gen X, hiring, for the most part, millennials, working for baby boomers.
Wow.
And so, as we go through this training, and I'm just sharing with everybody that it brings communication and how you deal with folks, it's ongoing. I mean, it is so little about fertilizer and sprinkler heads and so much about communication.
So what are some specific communication challenges that you're running into?
So one is specifically when we look at learning. So I'm going to onboard, and so I had it drilled in my head, let's do some onboarding. Sounds great. So I break out the whiteboard and I write all these notes, because that's how I learn. When I read your book, I read the book once, I read it twice, I underline, I write notes. People that are younger than me learn a different way. It's visual. I asked 2 people that were 30 something. I asked them, gave them a specific question about if you had a car that you did not know anything about. It was your dream car and you just had it, but you wanted to learn out where the light bulb was or how much oil it took. Where would you go for that? My first inclination would be to reach over and grab something, a little book called a manual.
Right.
The 2 people that worked for me, one of them said Google and the other said YouTube. Mm-hmm. When they said that, I put down the chalkboard and we went outside and started looking at grass and we went visual.
Yeah.
So that's a big communication thing. And then in the field, we have to make sure that our customers, they are still phone and message oriented and they want to talk to you. So it's important that when we come on your property that we engage, and even if we can't answer the technical question, we make you feel comfortable that we're going to find the answer, that we're going to relay the message to the office, relay it to Eric. And I also try to, for the most part, make it so that the technicians can answer the question, because that makes the customer feel good, makes the technician feel good. But then I say, if you can't answer it, don't just duck your head and go the other way. So those are some of the challenges.
So I actually hear that you've got solutions to these challenges. Like, you have been curious, you've been asking questions. I love the question about, you have this car and how are you going to figure out how to take care of it? Where do you go for information? That really clued you in to changing the training that you're doing and making sure that it connects with the people that you're training.
Yes. And I'll back up to the hiring stage. I asked one of my team members, he moved on now and he was looking for a job more within his, education and his interest. I asked him, how does he go about applying for jobs? And that was really eye-opening. I was unaware that you just hit this little app on Indeed and you can apply for probably 50 jobs in 5 minutes, and that you go through these third parties, and that his normal expectation was to get ghosted by companies. And he actually said that the larger companies ghost you more than the small companies. And I didn't know that without asking.
So knowing that, what are you doing differently?
So we instituted as part of our policy, okay, when you apply for a position here and you read our job ad, we want to make sure that we get a reply out to you quickly. And and at first we were doing that, but we had no system. So now I've developed 4 email replies. One is if you don't meet our qualifications, but we do appreciate it and check back later. One is, everything looks good and we'd like to go forward, and here's the next step. We're going to call you within 24 hours. I think the third one is if they look pretty good, but they didn't answer our one question, we're going to ask them, we're going to say we appreciate you responding. Would you go back and reread our job application and resubmit? And if they do that, then it shows that they're listening and they're trainable and teachable. And, but before I didn't have a system. And now, even though I'm the one doing that now, I want the system to be so that the office manager or somebody else can do it down the line.
Excellent.
But trying to be more responsive in a quicker manner.
Yeah. So I love your curiosity and that you asked this person, tell me how, when you're applying for a job, what do you do? What does that look like? And that's given you insights into how you're differentiating yourself as an employer, just responding. And it is true. Many applicants expect to be ghosted and not hear anything back when they submit those applications. So when you respond, you're sending a message already that you're different. And there's multiple ways that you sent that message with your job ad, which is different. And then the communication. And what you're also doing is you're showing them what your culture is, that you're responsive and you want team members who are responsive to your customers. So you're setting a precedent even around that, Eric.
Yeah, so that's what we're working on. And it's ongoing, again, with the learning. I mean, I also have kind of broken down our learning because we do lawn and weed control. I've broken out what we're going to learn into seasons quarterly. So if you came to work with us and we're going to train you in January, I'm not going to worry about the weeds and what you're going to see in July. We're going to do it quarterly, because what I found was I was just kind of feeding people with a fire hose and too much. And I think whatever profession you're in, if you've done it 10, 20, 30 years, you don't know, you kind of tend to forget that when you're talking to somebody else who's not in that profession, that you need to dial it back a little bit.
Yes. And really spoon feed what's most important for them and allow that experience where they feel like, oh, I'm getting it, versus, oh my gosh, there's so much coming at me, I can't remember anything. But letting the information and the knowledge build on itself. And so structuring the training that you're doing. So you also had a question around virtual team mixed in with in the office team or in the field team. So, and how do you foster that feeling of camaraderie and team spirit? I'm curious what you've already done to address this challenge, then I'll add some thoughts to that.
Well, so we, much like we're on this interview today, we used Microsoft Teams, but we had basically a Zoom interaction meeting where you have FaceTime. I'm not real comfortable with that at first, but I think, that certainly helps. I'm trying to devote specific times just to the office manager where we can talk about the questions or the challenges, how it may help her. And some of that involves she's fielding questions from customers with technical issues. So while she may be great at the scheduling and the calendar and the technology aspect, I need to bring some of the lawn and landscape part into it. I'll shoot little videos while I'm out in the field of this weed and this irrigation head and send those back to her. Mm-hmm. I think that's helping her. I don't know if that's culturally helping.
Let's talk about the culture piece. So when you're doing your one-to-ones, you're trying to do those weekly, it sounds like, or at least every other week, which is very important. That's the number one way to foster team members feeling connected and safe and supported. And it also addresses a lot of communication issues that come up. So, and you're doing team meetings also with video, right? Okay. And how often do those team meetings happen?
I would say every 2 weeks that we have the team meetings. Now we talk on the phone almost daily, or definitely daily. And that's usually, updates with what's going on, where you need to go. But we try to, I guess, once a week, I try to at least talk more into what parts of the job, or what can I help, or what can we make the systems flow better. But I'm not sure if that's really what you talk about team, inclusive. I mean,
yeah, building the culture and building the relationships.
yeah. It's hard to go to a pizza party when you're one state away or whatever.
Right. So there's lots of ideas here. So some teams like to do book club discussions where team members will pick a personal or professional development book, and the whole team reads them and comes together and discusses that. And that's part of the ongoing learning, but it's also a way to be more relaxed and informal with each other. The other fun thing to do is to make a point of ending your team meetings with icebreakers. So don't start the meetings with the icebreakers, end the meetings with the icebreakers, and create that opportunity for people to share fun things about themselves away from work to get conversation going. And that allows the team members, and the reason you want to do it at the end is because it gives team members the opportunity to continue the conversation after the meeting ends. So the virtual team member will get to know your other team members in a more personal way, and it's easier for them to connect. Does she have any interaction with your team members on an ongoing basis, or is it primarily with you?
I make a point usually to try to foster that. So even if it's a technical or customer issue, if we're doing a text, we make it to multiple people, the technician, myself, and the office manager, or I have my office manager actually contact them directly so that they kind of have some autonomy, so that Eric's not in every decision, not in everything.
Yeah. So another cool thing to do is to do like an appreciation circle over Zoom or over video, where each team member shares their strengths and other team members comment and share how they've seen that person using their strengths at work. So there's really good tools for that. We do the People Map assessment. There's also the Clifton Strengths assessment, and those are both relatively inexpensive. And you can give them to your whole team and then have these discussions as a team. So people really start to understand some of the differences that exist on the team with respect to strengths, and how you can rely on one another to bridge the gap. So if there's something that you're really good at, Eric, but I'm not so good at it, I can come to you and say, I need some help with this. Or maybe Eric can do it and I can do something else that I'm better at, and to support him and help him in that way. And just those kinds of Zoom team development activities are fun. So the learning together and looking at strengths are some of the most basic, easy ways to get some of that camaraderie going. But also looking at, is it possible at some point to have an on-site, bring your virtual team members on site, or do some kind of off-site retreat for the team where everyone goes off-site and spends a day or a weekend at a fun place and gets to know one another, and also you do some work on the business.
Yeah, in my case, my office manager, they do come to the coast a couple times a year, and she was very proactive and actually came to our office to meet us during her vacation. So that was great. I really appreciate that. I'd like to do more on my end, but we're busy. It's springtime, and just to let everybody know, as it's an ongoing process, 75% of my workforce right now, which is a small one, we're 4 people, is new this season. So I'm getting a lot of teaching and a lot of questions every day. So I'm getting to really focus on how to create better onboarding and teaching. That creates some challenges, but we're getting there.
So Eric, if someone is listening to this and they're interested in applying at Seagreen, where do they go?
Okay, so our website, www.seagreengrass.com. And thanks to your help, we actually have a Join Our Team page.
Yes.
You can click and read our story and read about our immutable laws and how things, how we operate here. And you can apply through that application on our website. We're also on Facebook if you want to, find out a little bit more about our company and what we do. And yes, we're located in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. If you look at a map, right where North and South Carolina meet, that's where we are. I'm talking to you from South Carolina, and I'll go to my shop, which is in North Carolina, only 6 miles away. If you want to come to the coast and enjoy golf and the beach, here we are.
Wow. Sounds like a wonderful invitation. And I know you have hired and recruited from across the country. So even if you're not local and you're listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I think I'd like to live there, and this sounds like a great job opportunity, you should definitely consider reaching out to Erich. So Erich, again, we've featured you in Tap the Potential's Great Place to Work Spotlight because you have done considerable work on yourself and on the business to make it a place where A players want to work, to really be that employer of choice for the A players that you want to attract. So I acknowledge you for that. I want to share with you, Erich, that the How to Hire the Best course is coming up again. We're starting on April 7th. All of our alumni in the course are always welcome to repeat the course. We never charge for you to come through the course again. And the reason we do that is because we know the reality of small business, that like Erich's in the middle of a very busy season right now, and you may be only able to do a couple pieces of the course. And so you need to come back through the next time it's offered to finish out building out your hiring system. And then we also have people coming back through like Erich who have their hiring system and they're honing and refining and building and adding on to it. So one of the pieces of the course is we have live Q&A discussions that happen, and those are open discussions with me around hiring, onboarding, and team development. So Erich, if you want to come back into the course, April 7th, we'd love to have you back in. Anybody listening who wants to join, it's not too late as of today, tapthepotential.com/course.
Well, thank you. And I would say I took the course 2 times, and I would certainly like to do it again. And the online interview parts of those are really good because you get to meet other business owners and discuss not only challenges, but you hear ideas and solutions, things that you can try. That interactive part that you do is really good. And it is true. Things happen, the first go around, something happens and you can't get all the things done and you feel like you're behind. But the fact that you can go back and take it again is really helpful.
Yeah. At Tap the Potential, we are all about small steps forward, taken in a consistent direction, lead to big change over time. And the course is designed so that you can take those small steps from clinic to clinic that really add up and make a solid hiring system so that you can attract your A players. Erich, I'm so honored you joined us today to share your story and to inspire others with what's possible. I know you've spread hope today for others to be able to hire their A players and build a business around your dream. And so I just want to encourage you, keep working on it. You deserve the time off and to enjoy more time at the beach.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thanks for all that you do. I really enjoyed it. And I'll keep on listening to the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Erich. Thank you for spending time with us today. Join our conversation in the Entrepreneurs Take Your Life Back Facebook community at tapthepotential.com/group. Share your aha moments from today's episode, ask me questions, and join in on the fun with your fellow entrepreneurs on the journey to designing sustainably profitable businesses that give you more time for what matters most and more money in your bank account than ever. And finally, share today's episode with a friend if you know a friend who would enjoy it. This is real life business. Keep your chin up, keep moving forward. You got this. If you've gotten value from today's show, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you are a repeat listener of the podcast, know that we greatly appreciate you at Tap the Potential. And to that end, I have a request. Please consider leaving us a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Our reviews help other entrepreneurs like you to find us. Be a part of our movement to help entrepreneurs take your life back from your business.